Facebook family. October 4th, I'm about to say 2023. I'm about 24 years late. Elevate. Facebook family. Two Tramps in Mud Time. I can't wait to explain this one. I like to get titles like that because I just know people are like, what the heck is going on? Two Tramps in Mud Time is what we're talking about today. Episode 109. If you're in, please text, or I said text, please get on the comment line, put where you're from, that you're here. A lot of you guys that are regulars know exactly what to do, but we won't know who you are unless you put the information in there. So I want to do a couple shout outs, but I'm going to wait till somebody gets on or more people get on. How you doing, Shar? Shar just raised the eyebrow. So anyway, I wanted to. How you doing, Tamika? So definitely, this is October 4th, 2023, episode 109. Can't believe it. We're over 2 years now doing this. I think out of the 2 years, I think we only missed 2 or 3. Aunt Stephanie, how you doing? We only missed two or 3 weeks, I believe. I think it's only 2. We went on vacation, but this one, Two Tramps in Mud Time. Two Tramps in Mud Time. So what is Elevate? Elevate's a leadership company where we coach and train. We do really, if it was my world, and how you doing, Mom and Dad? They're on. If it was my world, it would have all be personal coaching, just all personal coaching. Because that's really what I like to do. It's really what I'm better in. This is not this forum and this medium is not what I like to do. But we've been doing it for 2 years now, so it is what it is. But one-on-one coaching is great. And even if it's small groups, that's great too. Groups under 20 tends to be really effective because you can really dig down deep in groups that are smaller than 20. But what is Elevate? Elevate's an acronym: expectations, leadership, ethics, vision, attitude, temperaments, and effectiveness. And that's when we go into a deep dive and just go into the general principles of leadership. And it's in 6 sessions. Each session normally is an hour and a half long. Who we are, I'm Curtis, and Shar is my wife. We lead the company, and basically Shar's been doing what she do, business analyst, project manager for over 11 years now, might be 12. I need to get that straight. A long time. And then I've been in leadership for over 30 years, and in the restaurant business and retail in general. And we just really want to share and can help. And I came across something that really, really describes how I feel about what we do as coaches. And this was written by a theologian, but he said this: the general principles of any study you may learn by books at home, but the detail, the color, the tone, the air, the life which makes it live in us, you must catch all these from those in whom it lives already. I think that's you hear that? She's busy over there. So this, I'm going to read it one more time. I get so excited when I see a quote. How you doing, Ann? It's good to see you. I'm going to give you a shout out to Ann where you get your Aggies. But this quote was by John Henry Newman. It explains exactly what we do. It says, the general principles of any study you may learn by books at home, but the detail, the color, the tone, the air, the life which makes it live in us, you must catch all these from those in whom it lives already. And that's who we are. We are the people that this stuff lives in already. And yes, you can go get a book, and you can get all kind of leadership books. You can get our quote book, and you'll get a lot out of it. Thank you, Aunt Stephanie. You'll get a lot out of it. But I tell you what, you're not going to get the same as if you were to do a one-on-one coaching with us, because you're going to get the air, you're going to get the tone, you're going to get the color, you're going to get the very life of what it's all about, because we live it every day. So that's what elevates. And we always tell people we are the doers. There's 3 types of coaches out there. You have the degreed, the deputies, and the doers. So the degreed people are the people that they've never really led anything, but they have higher degrees, like masters or higher, and they go out and they basically coach and train based on interviews and concepts and stuff like that. Now, of course, you can be a doer with a degree. I'm not saying that. I'm just for this, the way I'm chronicling this, I just want to give these categories. So, but the greed person I'm talking about is your first level. 3 levels. Your first level is that person that, hey, I haven't done it, but I've read a lot about it. I've interviewed the best out there, and I want to share you what I've learned. They're good. They have information. Hey, Alex, how you doing? Great to see you. I tried to call you, man. And then you got the deputies. The deputies were in the inner circle of that leadership team, and they were getting things done. They were the right hand, the left hand. They were the person that really helped drive success. How you doing, Karen? It's good to see you. Thank you. Thank you. And those deputies were there, and they have a lot to share, right? They have a lot to share. But then there's those doers, and those are the people that are the ones that are stressed out, where their hairline is starting way back here. And they're the one that have the color, the tone, the air, the life, that understand what it is to live this stuff. And that's where you really want. If you have a choice between those three, pick the doer every time. So 2 traps in mud time. But before I do that, I have to give a shout out to the Aggies. And man, I was so tempted to wear my Longhorn shirt today because we are number 3 in the country. Anyway, we are number 3 in the country. But Ann shared an article with me a couple weeks ago, and A&M is ranked the number 1 school in Texas. So awesome job. Awesome job. And I want to say, and I'm sure Ann is going to correct me, I want to say they're like 38th in the country. I want to say it was 38th, which is really good when you consider all the schools that are out there. So, and that considers the private schools. So awesome job. I feel like I can't believe it, really. I guess I've been living in Austin so long. When I lived there, I just never thought that the Aggies would take us out, but they have. So kudos to that. And then I want to give a shout out to myself. For 2 weeks, I graduated from Stagen, and it's over. And today we had to do a 4-minute presentation on what is it? Teams like what's the other one? Skype, Zoom. We had to do a 4-minute presentation, and then we had a 4-minute presenter, and then we had a 1-minute person that replied to what the person presented, and it was like 18 of us. So we had to go through and just talk about what our takeaways were. And that was the final teleclass. We have a teleclass every 2 weeks. We have a coach we meet with 6 times every quarter, and we have homework every week. So very excited that I went through it. I mean, man, if I had the money, I would pay for everybody to go that wanted to go. Man, it's a great course. The course, the company's paying for it. So I was able to get there. It's pricey, but it's worth it. It's very worth it. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. So actually, Shar is actually just a few seconds ago, she was looking at tickets because she's going to come down. She said the prices, she might say like, hey, you graduate on your own. See you, boy. See you. I got it. But very, very excited just because, man, I tell you what you don't know until you learn it. And it was a lot of stuff. I mean, from time management to phrases that help us connect with people, like the stories we tell ourselves. We use that term a lot, especially when I'm working with somebody and I see something that looks sketchy. I'll say something like, hey, the story I'm telling myself is that the effort's not there. Now, tell me if I'm wrong. So those little phrases, the check-ins, when you check in with somebody to find out, where they are, so you don't assume, from stakeholder to stakeholder mentality to the power of TED, understanding the whole power dynamic and the drama triangle, to active listening, to educating your environment. I mean, I can go on. I mean, it's like, I feel like about 40 different concepts. And we would once a quarter, we would fly out to Dallas and they'll put us up in a hotel and we'll meet for like a whole day from like 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And we'll sit in circles and we'll talk. And those 18 people were people that were executives in other businesses, banking. Some of them were in education. Some of them were in, some of them had two ministers in there. It was dynamic. It was very dynamic. So very excited, and I can go on that, but I'll stop. But anyway, Thank you, Ann. Thank you, Mother Brenda. So that's who we are. I love that quote because I love that quote, and I'm going to keep that quote. And it's time to do another quote book. I just got to get time. It's time to do another quote book. But I wanted to talk about this: the two tramps in mud time. So the reason we called it that is based on a poem by Robert Frost, written back in 1943, and this is really a continuation or a part two to what we talked about last week, which is the making of a corporate athlete. And when I read this poem, man, it resonated with me. Uh, it really did. It resonated with me because it's talking about recovery, and that's what we talked about last week with the making of a corporate athlete. We said it's not so much the stress, but it's the recovery. And this poem is talking about that. I'm not going to read the whole poem. If you Google Two Traps in Mud Time, you will see the poem. You can YouTube it. They will speak it to you. If you YouTube it, they will break it down for you. I mean, this is the day and age of information. They can break it down every kind of way you want to. But I wanted to read the last part. Before I read that last part, just give you a general synopsis. The guy has a job. He is off his job, and what he's doing is he's cutting wood. And while he's cutting wood, these two tramps. Now, back then, tramps were like people that were vagabonds, transients, maybe daytime laborers, but they weren't what I was thinking, tramp. So at the end of the day, they come by and they see him chopping wood, and they're hoping to get a job from him. One of them stays and kind of conversates with him and try to convince him to get a job, but he's really enjoying what he's doing. He's like, man, this is therapeutic. Man, this is spiritual. He's like, man, and it really helped him. And he chose not to pay the laborers, and he chose to continue cutting that wood. And he talks about the weather out there and how beautiful it was and how he really felt connected, and it really revived him. Recovery, right? Recovery. So then he says this: my object in living is to unite my avocation and my vocation. Stuff that I work on that I enjoy to do and stuff that I do to make money. He says, I want to unite those things. As my two eyes make one in sight, only where love and need are one and the work is play for mortal stakes, is the deed ever really done for heaven and the future's sake. My object in living is to unite my avocation and my vocation as my two eyes make one in sight. He said, put them together. He says, only where love and need are one and the work is play for mortal stakes, is the deed ever really done for heaven and for future sakes. And he understood. And it's funny because we don't look at it this way. He said, I want to put them together. They should be one. They should be an integrated whole. I wrote this down because it says it better. Robert Frost captures vividly how important it is for us to understand our work and our lives and how to integrate the whole. This is powerful for me, and this might not touch anybody else, but I feel like we demonize work. I just really feel like we demonize the jobs. We put them on this place and we look at them in a negative light. But at the end of the day, this guy understood that the things I do outside of my job that I enjoy are connected to the things that I do with my job, and we shouldn't disconnect them, right? In fact, he felt fulfillment by doing things that were his avocation, along with his vocation. So it's amazing to me because we're going to talk about some things here when it comes to recovery. This is really about recovery. So tell me if you're with me. Mother Brenda has the happy face on there. Put a 1 down if you're with me so far. Two Tramps in Mud Time. I just used that title because I knew it would catch some attention. But that is the name of the poem. I hope you listen to it. I hope you YouTube it. It's better that way. But I wanted to go over a couple things real quick that we talked about. We talked about corporate athletes last week, right? Thank you. We talked about corporate athletes last week. We talked about that we're not just talking about executives. We're talking about people that have extreme jobs. We talked about there's 10 criteria. If you meet 6 of them, you have an extreme job. My dad said he's not with me. Let me know. I'll talk to you later, but let me know where I missed you. He put a number 2 down. But we talked about that the goal of executives and the goal that they were trying to do is get these executives to be able to handle long-term stress and to build their capacity for what might be called supportive and secondary competencies, right? Among them, endurance, strength, flexibility, self-control, and focus. Increasing capacity at all levels allows athletes and executives alike to bring their talents and skills to full ignition and to sustain high performance over time, a condition we call the ideal performance state. So we went over all that last week, right? And the capacity to mobilize energy on demand is the foundation of the ideal performance state. My dad said his finger wasn't working. All right, that's cool. Karen said a 1. And then it said basically last week we talked about this is that effective energy management has 2 components, the stress and the recovery. And one of the things they said, working with athletes and working with executives, they did all these studies. They said that it's not the stress that is the problem. It is the recovery that is usually the problem. So we have this stress, but we don't have these things that we do to replenish ourselves and recover. And it is funny because this stuff lines up exactly with this book. And I know we have a coach on the call right here named Mother Brenda Grays, that there's a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And at the end of that book, it talks about sharpening the saw. And when you go through this, we're going to show this pyramid. When you go through this pyramid, they have the exact same points in this book. And basically, they line up. They line up like exact. But I want to show this real quick. And I'm hoping I don't mess. I always get nervous when I start messing with this. I'm going to show you this. Hopefully it moves. Is it going to change screens? All right. So I wanted to show you this pyramid. So basically, what they're saying is that if you want a person that's a high performer, you want him to be a high performer for a long time, they need to have rituals that expand their capacity in these 4 areas: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, right? And this is what I mean by it lines up to everything that Stephen Covey said in that book. Last time I ordered the book was 10 years ago, and at that point it was 40 million copies sold. So that 7 Habits, I remember talking to a friend of mine named Wayman, and he was getting his master's degree in education, and that book was part of his work that he had to do. He had to do an assignment on that book. It's a powerful book. Basically, he uses biblical principles and shares it with us all, and he puts it in a way that we all understand. Mother Brenda said it's still relevant. It is. It is. So this right here is the pyramid, and it's like, hey, if you want to stay a person that is highly productive, you need rituals that recover, that you work hard, you have the stress, but you have rituals that recover you in physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual capacities. So I'm going to get back to this. And that's what it's about today. I know it's 7:18, so I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time on it, but I wanted you to hear the physical recovery. We're going to start off with that. We'll go to emotional, mental, and spiritual. But example of lifting weights. I love this example because this is exactly the phenomenon known as supercompensation. That's what they call it. They call it supercompensation. And basically, that's when you stress your muscles. You stress them so much that they break down. The fibers in your muscles actually break down and they're torn. And then it takes 48 hours for those fibers to reconnect and heal. And when they reconnect and heal, they're actually stronger than they were before. It's the same concept when you're dealing with emotional, mental, and spiritual. It's just a little different. But and that's when they say it's not really the stress, it's the recovery. Because if you were to lift weights again within 48 hours, you're actually damaging the muscle. But it's the recovering that allows it to heal and get stronger. So that same concept, we go to emotional recovery. And they say, well, what do you mean emotional recovery? Things that you can do to keep your emotions straight, the things that you can do to keep yourself with the right positive attitude, listening to music. You see guys, athletes do it all the time. They have those little things in their ear and they're listening, they're getting their head together. close relationships, people that you have in your inner circle that you trust. The third thing is faking it till you make it. This is just 3. There's more, but faking it till you make it. They've done studies where they will have an actor portray anger, and they'll measure their heartbeat. They'll measure their blood pressure. They'll measure their core temperature. They'll measure their hormone level. And then they'll actually measure them when they are angry, and the two match. So they say there's a power in acting as if, or faking it till you make it. Walk with confidence, be confident, look confident, even if you're not confident, because it affects you emotionally, right? 3, the mental recovery. And I love this one. This is education, continued education, continually honing and expanding the mind for vital recovery. And this is really where leadership stopped for a long time. It was stuck in the mental. But over time, they start talking about the emotion. And then they start adding the physical. And now you're talking about what's my why, which is they're calling the spiritual now. They're calling that the spiritual. So the last one, which is the spiritual. Oh, I missed a couple here. Bless you. Bless you. The second one under mental, and I missed this, is organizing and planning. I thought that was interesting. And it's considered another form of recovery. Beginning with the end in mind, which is a concept in Stephen Covey's book. But they said organizing, planning, and being a vision-driven person is considered recovery. You know, being that person that is looking at for the desired outcome is a form of recovery. And then the last one, which I want to spend a little time on since it's 7:22, is spiritual recovery. And if I don't harp on it enough, it's not the stress. It's not the stress. It's the recovery. You know, you could have stress, but if you don't allow yourself to recover, you won't get stronger. If you don't allow stress, stress is the stimulus for growth. So you got to allow there to be some stress. Now, how much? That's up to you and your heart and what you want to do. But I know one thing is that I am the person I am today because of those stressful moments. I had to learn how to deal with some of this stuff, and I'm continuing to learn how to deal with this stuff. Now, so far, I'm not on drugs or anything. I got a witness. I got a witness. The stress is real. I told my parents that my hair stopped growing for a while. It's starting to grow back. So all I do is when I go to the barbershop every week, I watch to see how much comes off. And the regular amount came off. So that's a good thing, right? But understanding when I really started focusing on desired outcome, that's when my hair started growing back. At first, I was stuck in I was spinning. I was in a spin cycle there for a while. But this spiritual one is very powerful. I wanted to read a couple. This guy, and I hate to do all this reading because I know it's hard. I'm going to try to act like I'm not reading. But there's this author named Mr. Gordon, and he shares this wonderful, intimate story of his own spiritual renewal. And it's called The Turn of the Tide. And I'm not reading the whole story. I'm just giving examples. He goes to the doctor. He says, man, my life is stale and flat. I just don't feel right. You know, remember, this is spiritual recovery. He said, I just don't feel right. Finally, determined to get help from the doctor. The doctor said, ain't nothing physically wrong. They ran all these tests. There's nothing physically wrong with this guy. The doctor asked him if he would be able to follow instructions for one day. And he said, of course. And he says, I'm going to give you some prescriptions. I'm going to give you some prescriptions. So he gave him a prescription for, I want to say 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 6 o'clock. And he was supposed to follow these prescriptions, and that was going to help him get better. So the first one was listen carefully. And so he goes out, and I want to say he went out to the beach, and his job was, the prescription was, listen carefully for 3 hours. He's like, man, listen carefully. That's a long time just to listen. But he just sat there and he listened. And it gave him a greater awareness. He started growing in peace. He started listening to the sounds. At noon, the prescription said, try reaching back. So his first thought was reaching back to what? So he started thinking about his past, about the little moments of joy. He tried remembering them with exactness. And then he tried to remember some things, and it gave him a real warm, growing feel inside. And then at 3 o'clock, he opened the third piece of paper. And then this one said, examine your motives. That's what the third piece of paper said, examine your motives. And he considered his motives deeply. And he saw that one of his motives, he says, when your motives are wrong, nothing can be right because you're just seeing things the wrong way. It made no difference whether you were a mailman, a hairdresser, an insurance salesman, a housewife, or whatever. As long as you feel you are serving others, you do the job well. When you're concerned only with helping yourself, you do it less well. So consider your motives. And then at 6 o'clock, the final prescription was write your worries in the sand. And he was able to go to the sand. And at that point, his mind was clear. He understood his why, and he was better. But that is the spiritual dimension and spiritual recovery. Now, one of the things I like to highlight is that everything in here is work. All the recovery is work. The only one that's not really work is the physical. You lift weights, you tear down the muscle, and then you just sit back and you let it heal. You don't do anything. But in emotional, mental, and spiritual, to capacity, to get your capacity to grow, you got to do something. You got to do something to put in some work to get stronger. And this one is very powerful too. This is the same one, spiritual. The great reformer Martin Luther is quoted as saying, I have so much to do today. I need to spend another hour on my knees. I thought that was, he says, I got so much to do today. I got to spend another hour on my knees. To him, prayer was not a mechanical duty, but rather a source of power in releasing and multiplying his energy. So it's just about the way you see it. But all of it takes effort and work to get recovered. And man, I think that at the end of the day, if we're going to be successful, you know, what I see myself doing later on in life, I got to master recovery. I got to be a master at recovery, because it's not the stress, it's how I recover. You know, when I look at people that were great and did great things that I respect, whether it be historical or people that I know now, they're in a tremendous stress. So it's like, you know, it just matters on what. If you want to be okay, then don't worry about it. But if you want to be great, you're going to be under tremendous stress. So you got to learn how to recover. And you got to have rituals. Remember that little pyramid had little hoops and it had rituals. What do you do to recover? So my wife, she didn't know that I was putting this together. She didn't know what I talk about. She doesn't know until the day of, because I don't want her to sit over there bored, really. I wanted to be like a little surprise for her. But one of the things that I used to do, and I used to be very, very consistent at it, was I did sticky notes. So my wife, she comes to me and says, hey, you need to start doing your sticky notes again. And right in the middle of me writing all this stuff, you know, me getting prepared for this Facebook Live. And it was, you know, the sticky notes are all about recovery. I didn't see it that way at the time, but the sticky notes are read your Bible, read your book. You're supposed to do some push-ups and some sit-ups. I haven't put that sticky note up yet because I'm not ready for it. And then pray, you know, and I just do. Nice to know. My wife want to add this. Boy, I tell you. Anyway, I feel like saying, Mother Brenda. But anyway, she want to add to my sticky notes. But anyway, all those have to do with recovery. And when I was on those sticky notes, I saw life different. You know, stress levels start going up, responsibilities start going up. I got away from my sticky notes, and then I started talking about stress. Right? Before it wasn't like that. I had my routines, and I was, my wife said I was less stressful. What it was that I was just on top of my recovery. That's what it was. So here it is at 7:29. Please put a 1 down if you got it. For me, this is mind-blowing for me. I mean, I wish I would have learned this 30 years ago. A lot of y'all probably already know it, but it's all about the recovery. It's not about the stress. I really hope, thank you, Ann. I really hope, I can't wait to get in front of a group of people and do this kind of stuff, man. I can't wait, because there's groups of people that shy away from stress. They just like, I don't want that stress. Oh, you might as well say, I don't want to grow. You might as well say it. I don't want that. I don't want to be great. you know. But once you understand that it's not the stress, it's all about the recovery, then you can experience a whole nother level of living. So, all right, 7:30. Please like and share. Please like and share. Please like and share. I don't say that enough. Remember our little slogan: be intentional, focus on growth, and elevate now. Thank you, Alex. I'm gonna try calling you again, man. Not tonight, but I'm gonna try calling you again sometime this week. Thank you, Karen. I really appreciate it. You guys have a good one. Go Longhorns.